Dubey
You
sir,
can start.
Dubey sir, you can start now.
Yes. So good evening, friends. We are going to watch a short video of Krishnaji. The theme being, can consciousness be aware of its whole content, or can thought be aware of itself as it is arising? So we'll watch it. It's a short clip, and after that we can share our understanding. So I'll try and share the screen now. Are you all able to see the screen now?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay.
Can thought be aware of itself as it is taking place, or does the awareness come after the thought? Can consciousness be aware of its whole content? Yeah, I'll read once more. Can thought be aware of itself as it is taking place, or does the awareness come after the thought? Can consciousness be aware of its whole content? Most of us are aware after they happen. Right? After the incident, after an action. Then we say, I should have done, I shouldn't have done. The questioner asked, can thought be aware of itself as it arises? Not after, which is fairly simple, which is what most of us do. But the question is, can thought as it arises can there be awareness of that? You understand the question? You understand the question at least? Can you be aware, please listen to this, of your thought? That is, can thought be aware of itself as it arises? You understand the question? That is, one's whole life is based on thought. Thought recognizing the emotion, the sentiment, the romantic feelings, the imagination, so on. Thought is recognizing all this, right? Oh, I'm very emotional, and so on. Now, thought is our instrument of all action, right? Therefore, there is no spontaneity. If you look into yourself seriously, spontaneity can only exist when there's complete, total freedom. Psychologically. So can your mind be aware of itself as thought arises? That is, can one be, is there an awareness as when you begin to be angry? You follow all this? Can there be an awareness as jealousy arises? Can there be an awareness as greed comes like a, be aware? Can there be? Or you are aware that you have been jealous, or that you have been greedy, or that you've been angry. That's fairly simple. Most of us do that. But to be aware so attentively, you can see for yourself the anger coming in, the adrenaline and all the processes, the whole movement of anger. You can see greed coming to you. See something you want and you follow the reaction. To be aware of it. Of course one can, as it arises. Now the question is a little more difficult, more deep, is can thought, please listen to this, which is you can be aware as anger arises. That's very simple. But is there an awareness of thought, awareness of thought itself? You understand what I'm saying? You're thinking now, aren't you? Or are you all absent-minded? You're thinking now, aren't you? Now, as you are thinking, find out if that thinking can be aware of itself, not you aware of thinking. You understand the problem? I wanted to see this. It is great. This is really great fun if you go into it. Not only fun, it's very, very serious because we can go very, very deeply into all this. That is, you are thinking about something, about your dress or your look, or what people have said, what you're going to meet, and this and that. Thinking is there. Now, take one thought and see if that thought can know itself. Yes, sir, this requires tremendous attention and which you're not used to. You're thinking about the dress you have had or you're going to buy. The thought that arises, can that thought say, yes, I'm awake? You understand? I see myself itself, not you observe the thought. Because you are also thought. You understand? So you are not aware as thought arises, but thought itself is aware as it comes into being. I wonder if you see this. No. Right? That's one question. The other is, can consciousness be aware of its whole content? You understand? Consciousness, to put it very quickly and briefly, is its content, isn't it? Your belief, your name, your nationality, your prejudices, your opinions, your conclusions, your hopes, your despairs, your depression, your concern about yourself. You believe and you don't believe. You believe in being a British, not British. You follow God, no God. So all that, your anxiety, your fears, all that is the content of you, right? Your sexual demands, your urges, your pleasures, all that is your consciousness. And can that consciousness, please listen to it, be aware of its own content as a whole, not just part? You get the point? No, you can't. You don't do it. This real meditation, you understand? Not all the nonsense that goes on. Because to see the whole of your being, not just your sexual demands, because sex isn't your only life. There is death, anxiety, guilt, despair, depression, you follow? Sorrow, all that's part of your life. So all that is your consciousness. Now the questioner asks, can your consciousness be aware of its whole content? That means, can you observe? Is there not you observe, is there an observation of the whole thing? One has to go very deeply into this. We haven't time, but I'll go briefly into it. That consciousness is put together by time, through what we call evolution. You have had incidents, accidents, remembrances, racial, national, and so on, family. All that is a movement contained in consciousness. Right? And is it ever possible to be completely free of that content? You understand? No, you're not interested in this. This is really very important, because otherwise we're always acting in the field of the known. The known being the unknown, also the ignorance. There's never freedom. That's a man living always in the past, as you do. You may project that past into the future as an ideal, as a hope, and so on. But it's still the movement of the past, modified through the present, right? So, a man who's completely, more or less living in the past, what is his mind? You understand? He may have new techniques, new opportunities to learn other forms of skills, but it is centrally in himself, his consciousness is the movement of the past. Right? So, a man who is living in the past, or a woman, what happens to his brain, mind? It can never be free. So a man who inquires into this very seriously has to find out whether this whole consciousness with its content can be seen at once, which is to have total insight into this. I don't know if you ever considered looking at anything wholly. To look at your wife or your girl or your husband, whatever it is, wholly. Not just her face, her this or that, but the whole quality of another human being. And you can only do that when the you is not. You understand? When you're not centered here, me. The me is very small, very petty, because me is the accumulation of all this. So, when you begin to inquire into this, whether it's possible to see the whole content and movement of consciousness, which means the whole structure of the being. That requires pure observation, you understand? Not your direction, prejudice, like and dislike, or all the rest of it, but just purely to observe this vast structure, very complex. Because of its very complexity, you must come to it very simply. Right?
Yes, we can begin with Harshad Bhai. Yes, sir. Unmute yourself.
Yes. Are you able to hear?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening, Dubeji and friends. This video, I find it very interesting. I like to say that when I am in this room, in this house, I cannot see the whole house. I have to go out from the house and then I can look at the house. And similarly, the further we go, the higher we go, we can see the whole city and we can see the whole country, we can see the whole earth as we go further. So if we want to see thoughts and feelings very, very clearly as they are arising, we have to be in that state of observation which is not made up of thoughts and feelings. Like Krishna ji here in this video, he says that people become aware after they become angry, but I don't think they become aware of when they say that I should not be angry. People say I should not be angry. It is also a part of thought. It is not awareness. So awareness is something different than the plane of thinking and feeling. So sometimes I give an example that if there is a two-dimensional insect prowling on the surface, that insect cannot see the whole surface. It cannot see what is behind, what is at the side. But if that insect is lifted up, then it can see the whole surface. So our problem is that we are not able to see the whole of thinking and feeling, how they are arising, when they are arising. And to see clearly how thoughts are arising, one needs the freedom or that awareness to look clearly. And of course, I also gave an example in the last or one video that if you want to see at the bottom of a lake clearly, the water must be clean and the water must be still. Then if you are looking from the top, you can see what is at the bottom of the lake. And if there is a bubble is coming from the bottom, you can see how it comes up and bursts on the surface of water. So to see clearly how these bubbles of thoughts and feelings arising within us, we need that awareness which is not part of thinking and feeling. And this is very, very rare, I would say, that even the great intellectuals, they don't have this awareness. They have the intellect, and through intellect, they are looking at thinking. It is like one part of thinking is looking at another part of thinking and trying to understand. But this intelligence or awareness is completely different. And it is very, very rare. And human beings who are very, very curious to look within themselves, they may come upon this state of awareness when their mind becomes very silent. And in that silent awareness, if a thought arises, one can see the beginning of it. And when such a thing happens, a person feels that something new has happened. And then sometimes it may remain for a little while, this awareness, and then one gets again caught up in the turmoil of thinking and feeling. But again, when a person becomes curious to look inward, to find from where everything is coming, then again the mind may stop and that awareness come. And when a person experiments with this looking inward every day, and whenever the person has time and freedom to look, then it may happen that this looking, this awareness, which is not a part of thinking and feeling, can become very natural. And in that natural state of looking, if fear comes or anger comes, one can see the beginning of it. And when it is seen, it gets dissolved. So this is the real beauty I find in Krishnamurti's teachings, that there is nothing to do except looking at what is happening within us. And to look, one needs freedom, one needs curiosity, one needs energy, and one needs honesty, and no escaping, because people do escape when they see something unpleasant coming, and then, or when the mind becomes silent, people will find it very frightening to be in that silence. But that silence is the real freedom. And in that silent awareness, all the problems which are created by thinking and feeling, they are dissolved. And when there is no awareness, then all these problems arise. And then sometimes it may be that a person lose awareness, and then these problems multiplies. But then anger has already come. So it is like when you are driving a car on a road and you become unaware for 1 or few seconds, accident can happen. So similarly, when we become unaware, all this fear, anger, jealousy, loneliness, boredom, all these problems arise. But, but again, we become aware, then everything gets dissolved. So the real thing in Krishnamurti's teachings is this choiceless, effortless awareness, which can look at everything, not only thoughts and feelings, but also the mountains and the river and the trees and the stars, because there is a great beauty in looking. And as Krishnaji said, finally, that in that there is no you who is looking at, whether looking at the thought or a tree or a mountain. So this I find Krishnamurti's teachings. If a person really understands it, it's very simple. But when we try to understand, it can become very complicated, and one can remain in this confusion for many, many years and may ask the same kind of questions again and again. And that happens because there is no real experimental observation done. It is mostly thinking, and thinking creates more complications. So, okay, I have said enough thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Harshad Bhai. Mr. Dakshina Murthy, yes, please go ahead.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible. Yes.
Yes.
Good evening to all. This is a complicated issue that Krishnaji has raised in this video. And it is very important to understand this also. What he is saying is the thinker can be aware of his thoughts that we normally know, and that can be easily observed. But can thought be aware of itself? He is very emphatic. In some other talk also, he talked about this, saying that it is not the thinker that is aware of his thought, but thought per se, as it is, can be aware of itself. And also he says, if thought can be aware of itself, there is a possibility that thought will understand its limitation. It will realize its mistake of entering into the psychological field, and therefore it can withdraw on its own voluntarily without effort out of the psychological field, and most of the problems can be solved. So it's a very important question whether a thought can be aware of itself. There is a dialogue where Professor Krishna discussed this issue, and he says there are two distinct parts in our consciousness. One is the thought process, that is the what is created by the thought, that is the I, me, myself, and all those things, the subjective part. And it is different from one person to another person. And the other one is the universal part, comprising of observation, awareness, attention, etc. So these two things combine, and we get what is called the experience. And Professor Krishna is of the view that a thought cannot be aware of itself, because the structure of thought is such that thought can think about itself, but it cannot be aware. But awareness can be aware of thought, aware of thinking. So this appears to be quite a big problem. And also the consciousness. The consciousness is its content, and that is created by the human thought, all the content of the consciousness. And that also needs to be observed totally. That is all possible only in a state of attention where the self is not there, and all the energies summarized, or summation of energy takes place, and therefore the person can be able to be aware of his whole consciousness. He is also talking about seeing the whole. How to see the whole? To see the whole, even if you see a part, you should know how this part is related to the whole. For example, in our consciousness, we see, say, anger. How the anger is related to the entire consciousness of that particular human being. That also is very important. And only in that state of attention, this kind of seeing and this kind of wholeness, seeing the whole, can happen. That's all from my side, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dakshina Murthy. Thank you. Mr. Shankar Rao, yes, please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hi, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I somehow feel it's a tricky thing. Thought, observing thought, and you are observing thought. Thought is different from thinker. And again, thinking is different from thought, then consciousness. It is somewhat tricky. And the thing is, thought, let us assume that because it's great Krishnamurti is speaking about it, let us assume thought is observing thought. So in thought, there are words and picture. Every word has a meaning, or every word refer to some object. So a thought observing thought, it observes the words or its meaning or that object or that picture in that thought. Can somebody please clarify? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shankar Rao. I think I'll leave the explanation part to Harshad Bhai, but I want to say something on this. I think let's not complicate it because Krishna has explained it beautifully. I think all of us in our daily life, we get moments where, the thought doesn't create problem. You are able to see things. How it comes is certainly not by effort, but the mind creates that space, that quietness, where one is able to observe things without any evaluation, without any measurement. In that state of mind, there is no me, there is no self at all. And since we are talking intellectually and discussing it, but one can observe that in daily life. It happens where that space is created and then one is able to see thought. There is no me there at all. Now we can discuss intellectually how it is done and when it is done and so on. But I think there are certain things which many people call preparation that is needed. That preparation is to be slow in life. In a life where everything is, we want to be multitasking all the time, doing different things, because that's the way we are called efficient. That, even while walking, we listen to music. While eating, we can see WhatsApp messages and reply and all that. Saves time. So can we just be attentive to anything that we are doing? I think that is where from we have to start. Of course, we have to start from where we are. I just wanted to say this, since Shakti ji wanted me to say something on this. So I'll leave it at that, and I would like Shakti ji to say something on this.
Yes, sir. When I was listening to this video, it was, it's so touching that how much love Krishnamurti has for all of us. And the only question which arises, is it possible to be aware of thought? Who is aware of thought, whether it is thought or whether it is I or whether it is awareness? That is another question. But in daily life, is it possible to be aware not only of thought, as Harshad ji said, is the outside world also? And as once in this same online meeting, Dr. Kumar Swami talked about, that when we do something, we are very, interested in to finish it. We don't put our attention, we don't put our, as if that is the only thing to be done, whether it is sweeping a floor or reading a book or eating, or and from that, so this question one has to answer to oneself. It is not intellectual subject at all, whether it is possible to be aware of thought, and also that it is such a gift we all have received this message, and what we are going to do with it. That's just, these things were coming to my mind. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shakti ji. I think Durga ji wants to say something. Yes, ma'am. Unmute yourself. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, we
Yes,
can hear.
sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. I'm glad you spoke about what you felt about this, this video, sir. Today, actually, first of all, let me say, it's good that, you people have given the YouTube link to this video. So we were able to hear, I heard it once in the morning. So the clarity is better. Last time, I think I also complained that, the clarity was not there. This time the clarity was there. It was a good audible. And since the link was given, I was able to watch the video also. And in fact, I was very keen that, what are the salient features we take from this video. After listening to the video carefully, what are the salient features, that come to our mind or that come to our notice? So just I've as usual, I've just jotted on few points. So, sir, he also says that, it's a fun to observe oneself also, and he says it's a serious matter, and he says consciousness, becoming aware of its whole content. And in the content, he means time and again, twice he has mentioned, it's a consciousness, the misery, the sorrow, the sexual desires, anxiety, guilt, despair. Actually, on a regular basis, we do go through all these emotions. We do go through all these feelings. So, are we aware of all that? That is a content of our consciousness. I am sure this can be the content of any human being, whether he's a very rich person or whether he's a very poor man, or all of us have these problems in our life. Isn't it so? The guilt, the anxiety, the tensions, and despair, misery, the sorrow. So when we look at our lives, these are the emotions we go through on a regular basis. Maybe some people, in some they have in a lesser degree, maybe because of the exposure they get or something. So he says that is the content of our consciousness. I think that can be true to any human being. And that's one part he says. And he says, when we pay attention to all these things, he says, you also are a thought. So when we observe our own selves, the way these things, unfold in ourselves, these things happen in ourselves, the way we go through in our lives. So are we aware of all that? Or we just go through all of them and we just forget about them? And when we read Krishnamurti, again, we think of something else. So he says, that is your life. That is meditation. He also says, meditation is not, what all that goes on in the name of meditation. It's not that. You of what all you go through in your life, and not after the event, as you go through. So and when we have to do that, then what do you have to do? We have to be maybe very quiet. We have to be very observant of our own emotions and feelings and our day-to-day activities. And as you also mentioned, and this has become a common practice for all of us, this WhatsApp messages and, looking at our phone and doing multiple things, we never pay attention to any one thing in life at any time. We do something and then we have to see what's happening on the internet, because these gadgets are available freely to all of us. So they are watching all of this and observing all this. And he says that is meditation. That's also part of this video, he said. And then he says, you should be aware, you have to be aware of the whole of it, not part of it. Whole means, that means this is a content we all share. It's not for me or for other person. It's different. More or less, the minimum same degrees we all pass through. So it is a whole of it, totality of it. And he says, man who lives in the past, he has never understood what it is to live in the present. Maybe that's true. How many of our actions and how many of our thoughts, they spring from our past experiences, our past information, past knowledge. We never try to see things the way they are, because our mind is always rooted in the past, or we are always perpetually worried about the future. That's that's sick. And he says that requires a total insight into our own consciousness. And then he says, have you observed any one person without you? You also, as a thought, have you observed your wife or your husband or your child, completely the way they are, rather than your images or your, screen of your own conditioning? So that's one more thing he says. And he says, when we observe this, that is observation. When you are not there, there's only observation that's going on. So I feel these are the salient features of this video, sir. And I wonder, and it's a quite a kind of, you can say, it's advanced kind of a teaching, you can say, the Krishnaji's, Ultimately, it's to not to be associated with religion, nationality. All of us do understand, but to come back to our day-to-day life, come back to the natural core of our being, it's very tough. So the way you people have chosen this video, that shows it's some kind of a more advanced kind of a nugget of the teaching. I have to say, sir. I can contribute maybe later on after all the participants take part. Thank you.
Thank you, Durgaji. Thank you. Yes, Harshad bhai.
Yes, I met one lady at Rajghat Study Center, and she was coming with a group of people from some country, and she said that I understand what Krishnaji is talking about, and I am aware also. But when we travel together, then all that understanding goes away, and I try to get involved in getting the best seat in the train or aeroplane and all that, and also the conflict arising because this group of people, they were traveling together, but they did not know each other, and they had some different way of thinking or behaving, and it was creating problems, a conflict. So I feel that these are the real situation in which we can really look when there is actual conflict arising in our life, or when there is a anger arising. At that time we need this kind of awareness. And if that awareness is lacking, then the problem multiplies, and later on we can analyze, but analysis does not solve the problem, because again we forget. And when the real problems come, if we forget or if we are not aware, then problems multiply. So I don't know whether it is possible to understand intellectually first and then apply it, or to see it when it is really happening. And in my case, I never tried to ask questions after reading Krishnamurti, but I'm curious to look not only when there are problems, but also when there are no problems. Something is going on, whether it's politics or some film or song or something, and there is a watching is going on. And as long as this watching is going on, this observation, then thoughts can move, come and go. They don't create problems. But when there is from these thoughts a sense of I or me, I like it, I don't like it, then there is a conflict starts between I or me and thought. And Krishnaji says it very clearly that our problems of psychological nature come from the duality or conflict between thinker and thought. Thinker means this sense of I or me, which actually arising from thinking itself. So one has to have a great curiosity to see whether what Krishnaji says is right, that this sense of me or I coming from thinking itself. And when a person is able to gather the energy, curiosity, intensity, honesty, all that, then it may happen that the thinking may even stop. And at that time, there is something new. And it may be either frightening or it may be wonderful. So all this thing, what Krishnaji is saying, it requires a kind of non-verbal looking curiously, looking at anger or jealousy while it is happening. And that requires an ongoing observation. And that is very difficult. And so that is why we get carried away by anger and do something which we regret later and we say, I should not have done it. But by that time, something damaging has already taken place. So Krishnamurti's teachings require a great deal of curiosity to look at thinking itself. And that again, Krishnaji says, freedom is at the beginning. So that freedom is very rare, I feel, because we live mostly on the surface level and we don't know what is at the deeper level. And to look at, and when the surface mind is quiet, then something coming from the deeper unconscious level can also be seen clearly. And just like I said, a bubble coming from the bottom of a lake and coming up and bursting on the surface. So similarly, all this requires a real curiosity of looking and freedom. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Harshad bhai. Thank you. Mr. Rama Rao, yes, please go ahead.
Uh, Sir, I want to share some of my feelings. Please respond or something like examine whatever it is. You see, it all simple. Can one see whole consciousness? The moment I heard, it came to my brain like this, the thought which came from consciousness of evolution. It is a part of that total consciousness. The content itself of the thought totally, it made by the total consciousness. So the seeing itself, the thought, it dissolves. The dissolving itself, we are being with the total consciousness. That I want to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rama Rao. Yes, Durga ji.
Yes, sir. Sir, I just wanted to, respond to what Harshad ji has just spoken. I think his pet words are mostly curiosity. We often hear from him. But I feel, I think the word which, got imprinted in my mind is about the passion. He says, Krishnaji says, you have to have great passion into it. It's a curiosity means is okay. You are curious what's happening around, you want to know. But to really go into all these things requires a great passion. Passion means ability to put away other things in your life and really want to plunge into it. So that requires greater depths of passion is a word that comes to my mind all the time. He says, first of all, he says, have you ever been interested in anything in life? Have you ever been passionate about anything in your life? First of all, find out about that. Only when you have that kind of a passion, when you have that kind of a deep level of interest in anything in life, that can be converted into, going into yourself. So passion is the word. And one more thing, Harshad ji has just said, only when you are superficial, the day-to-day problems, they get sorted out. When we know how to sort them and put them in their place, then we can have more time to go into these deeper issues of our being. Definitely, this anger, the tension, the anxiety, these are our day-to-day emotions and very strong emotions. Our lives get carried away by them, and either our lives, they can we can become victims of them, in our lifetimes also. So to go into those very tricky, very prickly kind of issues, very deeper issues, we need to have a lot of patience, lot of time, and first of all, do we have that kind of inclination to go into all of that? So for that, he says, you need tremendous amount of passion to go into all that. Only when we understand all that, and for us, all the time we feel, there is a non-dual state, so there should not be conflict in life. So, but he says conflict is part of your life, but only when we apply our minds to conflict, only when we see why it is happening, where it is coming from, the totality of it, then that may lead to something else. So rather than just be comfortable that, okay, I don't have problems in life, I know how to face. That means we are not experimenting with that. We are not taking any chances with that. We just want to play safe, So in case if we have to understand the Krishnaji's teaching, the core of it, a little bit of it, we need to experiment with all these things. We need to plunge slightly deeper into all these things. Maybe slowly we may start traveling on that. So that's what I have to say, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Durga ji. Thank you. Mr. Pradeep Verma.
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Yeah. a few observations and few questions. Because there are two things here in this topic, and the major one and the main thing is awareness. Awareness. Everywhere he's talking about awareness, right? And awareness to me, whereas a sensitivity plays a major role in awareness. Right when as a child is born, right from there, awareness is a very important part of life itself. Awareness is essentially for survival, biological and psychological both. We enjoy nature around us through senses that regulate my mental state. To enjoy cool breeze naturally, touch and sense of smell plays a dominant role. Now, J.K. talks about it, that to comprehend what is, all your senses must be working fully. You see, all your senses must be working fully. This is one that thing that came to my mind, because how to be sure of that all the things are working, and that too fully. But this is what, when I enjoy breeze, I see the role of smell and touch. Then it's consciousness. Consciousness, we are told by him that it's the content of consciousness is consciousness. Okay. This content, although past, cannot be matter and material like metal or dead wood. It has a vital role throughout in someone's life. Awareness is a living quality, is life itself. How consciousness or thought can be aware of itself? Is it unconditioned consciousness that plays the role of that torch or light? Or awareness is a special quality of life that reflects what is, if not identified? All this exercise we are doing to see the possibility of transformation of consciousness ultimately. Now, I just heard thought is an instrument used by, you can say thought can use it. I don't understand this. Then can your mind be aware as thought arises? Yes. This is possible when there is a movement and one can be, when one is undergoing that movement, in that present, this movement, I can see it arising in me. I can be aware of it. But to be aware of entire past as a whole and be free. You see, why things become complicated? Because he frequently uses this word entire, instantly, timelessness, present, whole. Now, where do you place me in the whole? Where do I place myself in whole? That's an important thing. Another thing is, me is of course a very small and petty thing, he said. Whatever my state of consciousness be, maybe awareness is always working in me. It's not that an entire complete silent mind only awareness works. No. In my present state also, I'm aware of that is everything that is happening around me. I'm talking to, I'm aware of almost a number of things. So in that, you may say that it's a momentary silence in your mind that is triggering these things, and so many things can be justified like that. But this question is always there, that entire silence, silent mind, I don't understand this. Somebody can clarify it a little more, but my present state, with my conditioning, with my everything, awareness is very much working in me, around me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Lakshmi ji, you wanted to say something? You had raised your fingers? No, I think she's quiet. Yes, Dinesh, you can go ahead. Unmute.
Are you able to listen to me?
Yes.
This is today's topic is little bit complicated in my views. First question is whether thought can be aware of itself. At various places, Krishnamurti himself has said that thought is a mechanical process. Here also he says that your observer recognizes the thought. So there is seems to be a controversy because observer is also content of consciousness, made up of content of consciousness. But let us assume that thought is a mechanical process just to start with. So we can say that thought cannot be aware of itself. There has to be pure observation or there has to be awareness which can be aware of the thought. Next question is whether this pure observation solves the problem or whether this pure observation is different from awareness. This is the next question comes, because here he has also used the word insight, and last time we discussed that you get the through insight you get the truth, and wisdom is the daughter of truth and intelligence is the daughter of wisdom. So simply pure observation in my views, what it will do, it is to be questioned. Unless there is an awakening of intelligence, wisdom is there, then wisdom will only act on that what he says, that ignorance. He said here clearly that there is a first portion is known, half portion, other half portion is unknown. So wisdom can act on that, and of course for that pure observation has to be there, silent mind has to be there, what Harshad sir has said. So all those things are to be seen. Now next question comes. So in my views, let us first close this first portion. Unless there is a awakening of intelligence, I don't think the problem solves. So this also automatically gives the answer to the second question, whether the consciousness comes can be this content of consciousness. So consciousness can be aware of its whole content. Various places he said that you can know yourself. When he talks of self-knowing, he says that you can know yourself only in the relationship. So the content which is hidden only comes into picture when you are in relationship, or there is an external stimulus, or there is external situation, or there is an suffering or something of that sort. So at that time only you know what you are. The example which Harshad sir has given, in that also of lady, that when the lady has faced with the situation of getting sick, and then only she there were reactions and there were so many other aspects of her mind came into the picture. So unless there is a situation, you cannot get the unhidden or the unknown portion doesn't come into the picture, or you cannot know that. But here my views are, as he said clearly, if there is a pure observation of the total content. Now in my views that is possible only when there is a total insight into the whole thing, and that is only possible if there is awakening of intelligence. And when he said that the self is not, means that you are pure, you first you started with the seeing the fragments, observing the fragments, as he mentioned in this, you observe that fragments, and slowly in my views, if you are moment to moment aware, then there is a possibility of that heightened awareness which can give you the insight into the whole being. As Harshad sir was saying that you go, when you go in space, you can see the total things. So similarly, if there is in that heightened awareness, you can have probably the insight into the whole of the whole structure of your unconscious, conscious and subconscious. And that insight may give you to the truth, which truth may convert into the wisdom, and then that wisdom with the emergence of the intelligence may solve the whole problem. That's what I think. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's a beautiful theory. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Lakshmi ji, please go ahead. I think she raised. Lakshmi ji, are you able to hear me? Okay, she has withdrawn again. Yes, Harshad bhai.
Yes, I like to say something about passion, which Durga ji talked about. Yes, one needs tremendous passion to look. Now, many people have a passion for music or mathematics or football. And when they are involved in these activities like music, mathematics, football, they don't feel the sense of time. The time goes very fast. And similarly, when a person is passionate about looking inward, there is a film is going on all the time within us. Whether we have problems or no problems, something is going on. And when a person is interested in looking without judging, without interfering it reveals everything about ourselves. Without trying to know about ourselves, we begin to know ourselves, and that gives us a kind of authenticity. Because when we know ourselves as we are, then we don't get upset when somebody says something which is not true. And if we get upset, then there is a possibility of looking inward to find out why there is this, why do I get upset or angry? But um, if there is this onward observation going on without any interference, without analysis, natural movement, then it reveals everything about us, and then it gives us some authenticity, and we can speak from our own looking, and we don't need to quote Krishnamurti because we speak from our own learning, which is moment by moment, you know. And what Pradeep ji talked about the awareness, I think that what he talks about the awareness in children or even animals, they are aware of the presence of lion or some other animals. That is, I would call instinct for survival. And that is a basic primary awareness. But what Krishnaji is talking about is the awareness which exists in human beings only, which is the awareness of thinking and feelings and a kind of a non-verbal looking. Of course, animals also look non-verbally at nature, and we have that possibility of looking non-verbally at everything, but we lose that ability when we go to school and college and we learn so many words and knowledge, and that knowledge interferes in our looking at a tree or a bird or a star. But after reading Krishnamurti, I can see that even with that knowledge which we have gathered, there is the possibility of looking at a tree or a human being without interference of knowledge. But this is very rare. It can come in human beings if they are very, very passionate about looking inward, what is happening, whether there are problems or no problems. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Harshad bhai. Yes, Lakshmi ji, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
I didn't know that before I thought it was unmuted. Namaste to everybody. Thinking, we feel always thought is a very common thing, but without thought, seeing the problem is a natural thing, but as we are accustomed to thought, we are feeling that seeing without thought is such a difficult thing. Really, it is a natural thing, and then all the problems, no problem will be there. And if you observe the sorrow without any thought, then a new type of action will come out. And we don't know that nature of the action also. The totality of the energy will be there, and it is a very, very natural thing, but we always feel it is unnatural. And as our consciousness is empty, when we at a time, it's not because of the analytical method, consciousness can be emptied at a time, and then love springs up. When there is love, then all our activities will be in an efficient way, and our intellect will work, love and intellect will emerge. When there is intellect, that the creative action will be there. So it is all a natural thing, but we are thinking that Krishnamurthy did not say any new thing. Whatever is happening inside us, how we are covering ourselves, he is showing us. He did not propose any new method or a theory or anything, but all these days we are not going deep. We are living in the thought level only, and we estimate everything with thought, and so we are in problems. But if we see without thought, with total attention, with total awareness, everything will be there. The intelligence will work. Automatically, we have to put intelligence is working. Then automatically, a type of solution comes out from that. It's not of the thought. But we feel difficult because we are accustomed to thought. We want to see that which is unending. We want to measure everything with thought. And that is why seeing is difficult for us. Seeing without observer is difficult because this observer is made up of thought. We are always living in the thought. So that's why Krishnamurthy says, wherever thought is required, there you keep the thought, and when it is not required, don't use it. It's an instrument, and in that way, it is useful for worldly things, for the computer knowledge, or for so many things. But wherever it is not required, we should stop it, and it will be stopped naturally, and then intelligence and love work, and the relationship will be nice, and life will be in a harmonious way, and total awareness will be there, and life is always fresh, new, and not in the past. There is the past, because thought is of the past only. We are accustomed to thought in such a way that beyond thought also we want to catch with thought. That's why we are failing, and that's why there is conflict. And always we are living in the measurement. Wherever thought is there, the measurement is there. So that is the thing. Whatever he is saying is a very, very natural thing, but it is becoming unnatural for us because we are accustomed to thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you. Yes, Dinesh ji.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to agree with Lakshmi ji. If you remain with the sorrow without thought, then different action takes place. And whatever she said is, I think it is in order. My question to Harshad sir is about passion. Where is this origin of passion? Is it in the thought or observer or content of consciousness, or it has got some different origin?
Can I tell a small story before Harshad Bhai replies?
Yes.
You know, in Rajghat, when Krishna was talking to the teachers, newly recruited teachers and all that, and he will say what education is and what really is required of a teacher, then he will say, sir, can you give your life to it? Can you give your whole life for this? I think that is passion. Am I ready to spend all my energy, my whole being, to see what it is? I don't care what happens to others, whether I get promoted, whether I have a house or a car, that becomes secondary. My main aim is to see what it is. That is what passion means in practical sense.
Yes, sir. Sir, I agree with you. But my question was, can the passion be cultivated, or it has got some its own origin?
I think you are going to the theory. I'm not interested in theory. I can give you how passion is cultivated. But this is so simple. If you like to do something, you find time for it. It's not observation or thinker and thought and all that. We can bring out that.
So it automatically means that it is not in the portfolio of the observer or the content.
It all proves that. But why you are starting from the wrong end? I'm saying you start from where you are.
I'm trying to start from the other shore, sir. Just.
He has also said that there's nothing like the other shore. He has also said that. What I'm saying is start from where you are. Take small things. If you want to do gardening, you'll find time for it. Whether you have to teach your child or you have to go for shopping, you can postpone all that. But your main interest becomes that. That is what passion is all about.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Shakti ji, please unmute yourself. And then, of course, Harshad bhai can put in his words.
Yes. You see, this question of passion, as Dinesh ji was talking about it, it cannot be cultivated, I think. Either it is there or it is not there. But you know what happens when there is no passion, when there is no that priority? Even in that case, if someone reads and listens to Krishnamurti, and you see, this is a fact that I'd like to understand what Krishnamurti is saying intellectually. And because I don't see that there is that sort of very existential inquiry in me. But at this, even like that, this message is so alive that it doesn't leave you alone. You have to go in the experimentation, otherwise intellectually only it is not possible. But at what level you go for that experimentation, that is, it will be different for different people. For example, today we all listen to Krishnamurti, and then the other friends, they start speaking. So when Krishnamurti is speaking, there is not much thoughts, not much reactions popping up. Yes, there are one or two here and there, but we all taste the some sort of listening. And then when the other friends start speaking, especially after Krishnamurti, then there are, I see in myself, there are so many reactions and listening is not happening. And then I watch those reactions. I see those reactions. And if I see those reactions, I come back to listening. So it happens erratically. But one thing is very true that, and not being aware has tremendous problem, whether it is of the outside world or whether it is of inside world. So that is something very important, and we can understand the significance of this point. Perhaps something else works in us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shakti ji. Thank you. We'll go to Durga Rani ji and then to Mr. Pradeep Verma. Yes, Durga ji, please unmute.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I just want to summarize just a few points, sir. Yeah, I brought out that topic, that word, you can say, passion. So I think somebody is asking, whether is it there or is it not there? I think, yeah, you also suggested few things. It's not an intellectual endeavor, nor it's a theory. As long as we are sitting and discussing about theory, and as long as if our mind keeps on saying, what is it in for me? When I'm going to get it, if that is a tone and tenor of our contributions, then maybe one is perpetually debating. The mind is always in the state of debate only, whether it is true or whether it is not true, what to do and what not to do. So if that is a reflection, if one wants to understand that, and passion, as I think Shakti ji is also saying, it may get ignited It may not be there. It may be there in a dormant state, but maybe in later part of life, maybe something happens. Some life, comes and thrashes us and wants to put us in a proper perspective. Maybe different kind of passion may develop, because there are so unknown factors in life. Nothing is for certain. Anything can happen any moment. So there is nothing written in stone. So that's one point I would like to say, sir. And even I just want to say, Mr. Pradeep Verma, he also brought a very good point of sensitivity, and he also raised a few questions. And maybe it's good to remain with the questions. As long as there are questions, our mind is trying to probe. It's good to have questions. That's what he says. As long as there are questions, you're alive, you're exploring, you're wondering, you're reflecting. Because ultimately, no one gives the answers to anyone. One has to find out the answers. The clarity has to arrive at in oneself by their own passion, their own efforts. So, and it's good to remain with the questions and keep wondering, keep an open mind. And we don't know when suddenly some moment, some clicks, and some answer, that comes to you, when it comes to us, and some clarity, the moment of clarity happens in us. So that's all I want to surmise, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have 4 minutes and 2 more people. So Pradeep ji and Dinesh ji, let's make it very, very brief. 2 minutes each.
Harshad Bhai recently just talked about he divided awareness conveniently into two: the instinctive awareness and the other awareness. Supposed in the JK was supposedly talking about, because man is the most suffering organism. Man is the most sufferer. That's why for the alleviation of suffering, a different awareness was required in man about other living things. We don't know anything. Man assumes that he is the supermost. Man assumes that he is the most advanced. But this may not be the case. So this awareness, self-awareness is required for the alleviation of suffering. You see that because of thinking and all those things, awareness, aware of thinking, aware of past, aware of this, that. Why this has become important is because man has suffered all these things, and it requires awareness greater than anybody else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pradeep ji. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Dinesh.
I would only like to say that there is another thing which Harshad sir again and again raised. That thing is curiosity. So I would just like to share this information that tradition has also given tremendous importance to this curiosity word. Apart from passion, they have given very much importance to this curiosity thing. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take the last question now. Yes, Mr. Rajendran, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Good evening. So, Krishnamurti, about passion, I just remember Krishnamurti once said, out of sorrow, when we don't escape from the sorrow, comes passion. That passion leads to love and compassion. Let us not accept what Krishnaji says. It is just his theory. When we are sorrow next time, let us stay with it without escaping and experiment it, as Harshad Bhai suggested, whether his statement is true, whether the sorrow leads to passion, love and compassion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rajendran. Thank you. I think with this we come to the end of the session now. So we'll close.
Sir, but you have to declare the subject, topic for Sunday meeting, number 1. And everybody is talking of Krishnamurti and judging Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti is acting as a mirror. Just see your face in that and do whatever you wanted to do with yourself. But somehow we try to test him, what he said earlier, what he said that or this. This was the easiest passage ever read by anybody. But how we complicate it, I see it. It's a wonder for me.
Thank you, Sushil ji. Thank you.
Sir,
Next Sunday, we have Mrs. Geeta Vardhan. She is in charge of the study center at Rishi Valley School. And she will be telling stories, the stories she tells children in the school. And that's the way she introduces Krishnamurthi's teaching. So it will be quite interesting. And she doesn't want it to be recorded. So it will make life easier for Kamleshji. So with these words, we can close. Good night. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
thank
Thank you.